Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Nat Walsh here with you today. I am doing a card for Paper Rose. I'm playing with I always have to stop and think about it. How do I say this? But Protea Bouquet. I don't know why, but I do. It's a really large image and very, very pretty. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to, surprise, I'm going to Copic color it because that's what I do. But I'm going to keep it rather pretty muted, pretty soft. Everything as normal for me is not going to go directly to plan. No big surprising things this time around, but we'll get into that later on. So I've sped this up a tiny little bit, but I'm going to jump ahead because there's lots. So we've got R39, R85, R83, and 81. What, apart from seeing me knock all my lids everywhere, all I've pretty much done is had a couple of flicks up from the bottom, working my way out. So the R39 I've done, a couple. And I've done a flick from the top, and then I'm doing, basically it's a whole bunch of flicking, a lot of flicking, and just to blend that color, but I'm making sure the center highlight is kept that way. Mostly because we're working on the middle, but Proteas, they curve over like so many, like a lot of flowers really, but Proteas are very much curved over. They have a curved little leaf. A lot of the ones I saw were very, very soft in color, but so I kept with that, and they were like a soft pink, shall we say. So we're going to keep with that sort of tone. So I am going to cut out a lot of the colouring of the centre of Protea. I've used an O marker just to make sure the centre of my petals are nice and light. I'm trying to keep a few of the colouring the petals in for you, just because they're all a little bit different sort of angles and that sort of thing. But ultimately I value your time, and I am going to cut that out a little bit. There's quite a few leaves with like different sort of leaves with this image. I'm going to color them all a little bit different. The one I'm going to not like it. That's going to be where we're going to have our problem. But it's not a major big deal, because what we're going to do is do a little bit of glazing. This is where Copics are pretty awesome in that regard, that if you're not too sure, you can put another color over the top of it. N3 was on my desk, so we're going to use N3 and N1 for our little white flowers. Later on, I'm going to decide that I don't like those, and we're going to put a little bit of the R81. These long, I don't know where I'm not really great with my plants. I have a couple of plants that are still alive, so, that's a blessing. These ones, we just got the G, it's not R, no, a G85 and G82, just to have the base of the leaves that darker color, and having the rest of it. I'm not fussing with it too much, because basically we do just have a very long, thin petal basically there. Next, these are the leaves that I'm not really going to like. We've got YG25, YG23, and going down to a 22. The color combination was not working for the overall shall we say, the overall feel that I was going for. It was just a little bit too bright for the leaves and the petals out of everything else. So as I said, I am going to change that, but we can talk about that later on. I'm basically going to use the colors that we're going to use for the other, shall we say, ferny type of leaves up the top there. So I'm working with, again, I'm trying to get a little bit of darker color down the bottom of the leaf to give it an impression that it's bent over a little bit. Our ferns here, we've got G28, YG67 and YG03. Underneath my hand, we've got a little, my hands are basically underneath my hand right now is a little, I don't know what it's going to be. As I said, I'm not good with my flowers, but a little dotty leaf flower thing. I'm going to color that as just a bit of greenery, and I'm going to use the G28 for those as well. Ferns have a lot of, shall we say, broken leaves. We have they're not smooth leaves like the ones down the bottom. I did color something as if it's attached and then went, you're not attached. But because it was a really dark color, we're just going to go with it. We're going to go with the flow, and no one's going to know. No one is going to know whatsoever. So I've just colored that with the G28 because I tried to remove it, and of course it goes, the greens, the dark colors, they really do go like a funky blue with Copic coloring, but that's all right. So we're just going to use him and pretend he isn't there. The holy bits aren't there at all. So you can starting to see that my leaves, the standard leaves, what I call the fern leaves, are the ones I'm doing now. They are a little bit too bright. I'm not going to realize it until a little bit later on. With these ferns, I'm just trying to do the darkest color down the middle and then flicking out. Underneath where it connects to the Protea is also going to be dark because it's sitting on top of something else. And then blending and trying to keep a highlight on the very end of the leaves just for a bit of variation in the color. To save these flowers, I've got my G28 just going underneath where down the middle of the thing of the leaf, down the center of the leaf. I'm blending it out with the YG28 at this point, just trying to give it a little bit of difference. Now going in, because I'm still fighting it, I'm still figuring out what I want to do. We're going to go in with the YG67 and then back through with the YG25. And this is going to just make them a little bit less bright. It still looks pretty bright on there, but on the card it's a lot more. They're still, as I said, they're still a bright leaf, but it's just toned it down that little bit more. And using the lighter colors just to make sure they all flow in together. I got a little bit crazy town with some of my coloring, so we're just going to use an O marker to get rid of that. I'm trimming this down to 14.1 by 9.7. We are going to have a matte. I'm not about what color of a contrast we're going to have it, but we're going to go with a craft color, and that is going to be, oh, this is where I decided my flowers need to have a hint of pink. And all I'm doing here is a line or two in the center of each petal. That's it. Nothing. I'm not blending that out. I have softened that down with a little bit of the O marker, purely just to I thought some of the end was a little bit too in your face. I had my yellows on my desk, so I'm just using a YOO just for a little bit of outer, a bit of color. And that's basically not in the center of the Protea, but that's basically right near the petals are. Using some post-it tape, or post-it notes really they are. I've got some yellow gold. And I don't mind it being over my leaves a little bit, but I wanted to try and keep that center clear of any gold. So we've just got Gamsai Tambi yellow gold there. And that's it. It's hard to see on the camera, but in real life, it's just pretty. It's just pretty. I've got the paper rose So Extra White. I've got lots of little bits cut here, and I'm just going to go through. I'm going to use To My Dear Friend. We've put that out, but I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything else that sort of struck my fancy, basically. I've got some of the strip dies to cut these out because I am terrible at cutting these things straight. This is where I've just got my cardstock. It looks very orangey there, but it's a very, in my computer it looks very orange, but it's actually a very nice craft cardstock, very nice brown. Trim him down a little bit more because, yeah, I haven't quite trimmed him down to the 14.1 by 9.7. This is going to be 14.4 by 10 centimeters. And we're going to just use a little bit of glue for this part, but we are going to raise it up with some foam tape onto the actual card base. The only other thing I really need to do is my sentiment here. So I'm going to trim him off using the strips that I had already cut off from when I trimmed down the craft cardstock. It's going to fit it perfectly. Like, it's a tiny, tiny little bit of a, like around the edges. You can see a tiny little bit, but that was perfect. I didn't want it too big. And it fitted it perfectly, I tell you that. Trim that off. That is going to be glued down flat onto my card base. I did have the foam tape out there, but believe me, it's just flat. We're talking about the sentiment here, because obviously that part is not. There we go. You can see I don't have any foam left on that. I'm going to use a little T-ruler just to make sure it's straight in a minute. It's just going to butt up to the end of this. This is just out of my stash. I just had this. And that is my card. I hope you're well. If you like this card, hit a subscribe and hit a like button to let us know. Let YouTube know. Bye.